Hi, my name is Kathleen and I will be presenting about the Hawaiian goose and its conservation. Throughout this presentation, I will be going over different topics relating to the Hawaiian goose, such as its origin, distribution and habitat, common features, mating and breeding, adaptations, threats, and eventually end off with conservation. So the Hawaiian goose is also known as the Nene bird, and it's the official bird of Hawaii. Its scientific name is Branta sanvicensis, which means goose of the Sandwich Islands. It is part of the animal kingdom, Chordata phylum, Aves class, and Seriformes order, and Anatidae family. It is known to be commonly related to Branta canadensis, which is from North America, whose progenitor arrived in the islands 500,000 years ago. The same progenitor of the Canada goose also gave rise to the Nene nui or the Branta hylobadistes. This species is 4 times the size of the Nene bird and is already extinct. As for the distribution, the Nene goose is endemic to Hawaii, which means that it is not found anywhere else in the world. From these pictures, we can see that they are found in different islands such as Kauai, Big Island, and Maui. So the bottom left is from the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. The top right is from Haleakala, and then the bottom right is from Napali Coast Cliff Top. So typically the Hawaiian goose is about 21 to 25 inches in length. They are monomorphic, which means that the male and female have almost the same appearance. The only difference is that the male is slightly larger than the female. For adults, they have black face, black calves and hind necks. They have black bills, legs, and feet. Their feathers, on the other hand, are a mixture of gray, brown, and white. They also have soft feathers under their chin. In contrast to the adults, the goslings don't have much variation in their color and have dull, dull brownish color. They have reduced color demarcation, striping, and bearing effects. As for their habitat, they prefer the grassland during breeding season and alpine shrubland during non-breeding season. So they also prefer places with exotic grass, bunch grass, and absence of trees. Besides grasslands and shrublands, they can also be found on coastal areas and lava plains with vegetation. Commonly, they are found in golf courses where there's an abundance of grass shoots. And then proximity to water is also important during molting so that they can escape from their predators. The Nene geese are also herbivores, so they feed on grass, shrubs, fruits, and flowers. The picture on the bottom left shows Nene geese eating grass. The bottom right shows ohelo berries, which is a type of berry that the Nene geese frequently eats. Other berries that it eats are pukiave and ule berries. As for breeding and mating, the Nene geese becomes reproductive at age 2 to 3 years old. Males also court the females, and then the females can then choose whether or not they want to mate with them or not. They usually mate for a long time, so from August to June, and their primary mating season is around November to January. Unlike other waterfowl, the Nene goose mates on land. They're typically monogamous, which means that they stick to one mate. However, if they become widowed or if there is no offspring after one breeding season, they will find a new mate. So if they have an offspring, the males nest in the kipuka, which is an area that is surrounded by recent lava flows. The number of eggs that the females lay ranges from 1 to 5 with an average of 3 eggs. And then incubation can take about a month, and it takes 3 months until the young gosling can fly. This means that they would have to stay with the adults until the next breeding season. They also have adaptations to suit their environment. The picture below shows the difference between the feet of a Nene goose and Canada goose. As you can see, the legs of the Nene goose are much longer. They have padded toes and reduced webbing. These are all adaptations to help them move around rocky, rugged terrain, especially in the highlands. They also stand taller than other geese to reach berries and shrubs, and they don't require aquatic habitats like other waterfowls. Although the adaptations can help them to be better suited for their environment, the population of the Nene geese declined due to multiple threats. Before the arrival of the Polynesians, there was an abundant number of Nene goose on the island. However, the Polynesian colonization and start of agricultural practices led to habitat degradation. When the Europeans arrived, they also introduced non-native plants and grazing animals, which limited the foraging and nesting habitat of the Nene geese. The Nene geese were forced to find other habitats that could expose them to danger. Another threat is the introduction of non-native predators such as dogs, rats, cats, owls, and mongoose. The mongoose was introduced to help reduce the rat population. However, because the rat was nocturnal and then the mongoose was diurnal, they rarely met each other, and so the mongoose kind of shifted its attention to the Nene goose. So the rats also prey on the eggs and goslings. The owls occasionally take the goslings, and then the dogs and the cats can attack both the gosling and the adult. Collisions with vehicles and wind turbines is also a big threat because of their low flight path, and they're also in close proximity to the roads when they're breeding or nesting grounds. So when they are going to back to their nesting grounds, they often have to pass by the roads. So that's kind of dangerous for them. And then as for human activities, it's also a threat because feeding them can make them unafraid of humans, thus making them vulnerable. They can also get tangled because of people who leave their trashes, or like when they have huge piece of string like this one on the bottom right. And then the next two are genetic inbreeding and infectious diseases. So for genetic breeding, this is also a threat because when the Nene geese are held captive and they breed with each other, they are more likely to have a recessive gene that reduces their chances of survival. So like in this picture below, um, the heterogeneous panther and then the another heterogeneous mate together, and then they produce a homogeneous recessive allele, and that one is more deleterious, which means that it's very harmful and can be lethal. And for infectious disease, Toxoplasma gondii can also infect them. So this is a protozoan parasite, and it gets transmitted by eating um, insects or by exposure to contaminated water, soil, or vegetation. So this doesn't really have a severe manifestation, but it could be it is known to lead to them to become more susceptible to trauma. And then, like I mentioned before, there was a population decline after Polynesian and European colonization, which persisted for a long time. By 1952, there was only 30 Nene geese known to be in the wild and 13 in captivity. Fortunately, before they became extinct, conservation measures began and the Endangered Species Act was passed in 1973. So this protected and recovered endangered and threatened species and their habitats. So there's two kind of sections, which is the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services, which is responsible for terrestrial and freshwater organisms. So that's where the Nene goose would fall. And then the National Marine Fisheries is responsible for marine wildlife. And then this is considered to be one of the most significant environmental laws for the conservation of the Nene goose. And then there are also other facilities and programs that help with the conservation of the Nene goose. Here are some of them. There's the island conservation, which helps to remove the invasive species from the islands. There's also the this on the middle picture. So that's the Wild Fowl and Wetland Trust. So those, along with the Peregrine Fund, Zoological Society of San Diego, and then the Fish and Wildlife Services, the state of Hawaii, the captive breedings and release efforts led to more Nene geese to inhabit the Hawaiian Islands. And then lastly, there's the Kauai Nene Habitat Conservation Plan. So it brings together different agencies um, and help with the conservation and plan strategies to achieve a full recovery of um, endangered birds. So so what we can do after is that there's also conservation actions that we can continue. So habitat restoration and protection, relocation and captive breeding. So we have to take um, populations of the Nene goose, and then we can have them established in new locations. There's also predator control, which like traps for mongooses and fences to keep them out. We also have to minimize collisions and human conflict. So we can do that by increasing signs and safe hazing of the Nene birds, and then just education in general for everyone. So I think that with all these conservations in place, they're like the Nene is no longer endangered, although there is a long way to go before the population of the Nene goose is fully recovered. Um, I think them being not endangered anymore is a small success, which means that we're going in the right direction, and it's a small hope that we can do this for some of the other species as well. Thank you.